And welcome back, ladies and gents. Obviously, brilliant games we've had so far today, but there is still a phenomenal game to go. Hopefully that cup of tea is now with you and that biscuit, as I told you to go and collect. And now I need to start looking at the game on the horizon here in the Season 4 match week 6 in the WGL EU. And it will be the classics, TCM up against Denial eSports. Two teams that they're familiar to each other by now, to say the very least. But, you know, so far today, I feel this might be the highlight of what we're going to see.
I think it's the most even matchup of today by a long stretch. C-Play Freefall would have been an even match day of Freefall. It continued that early season performance, the early season form.
Yes.
Isuba versus Peru, all kind of knew how that one was going. We were hinting at Isuba a little bit better than they've been before, but all in all, a 3-0 is what we'd expect, and it's what we got. Denial versus TCM, that's another story. TCM very strong of recent, and indeed this match season with the likes of Steel Mojo, Saurus, they've got Eurofish, the team captain of Spele in there, so a very well-rounded, strong team. They are going to be tested by Denial, although Denial have been slipping a little bit in the last few match days.
They definitely have, and it's generally down to the man who's not now in the lineup, I feel. It would be Elian, who joined Kaz and Crew, and now second in the league, but without them, or without him, they've looked a little shaky from the start. They've not had that caller, they've not had that decisive kind of victories that they used to, and it's been a little bit scrappy going forward. So obviously Carmen, Kedevan, Voil, Butcher, Materius, Nisbet, Zorni, and Pollen, Mako make up Denial eSports, but there's a couple of others you'll see in that lineup, the likes of Zenef maybe appearing, and TCM Gaming. You know, who are the new additions here that have kind of been turning heads a little?
Eurofish has been amazing for TCM Gaming. We were talking about it last time they played against School Bus. Beforehand, he always had to focus on either playing, but most of the time he had to focus on playing and doing his team captain role. Now he can just play on 100%, and he really does show how amazing of a player he is, what talent he is behind the likes of the AMX 3090, the AMX 5100. That's what we're looking for TCM Gaming. Yukai has also been performing very well. Sharthak, although a man of later years, he's truly fantastic in that IS3.
He's like a fine wine. He gets better with age.
He certainly does.
Come on now, let's not be mean.
Considering the guy who spends his job, he's a pilot in the German Air Force, flying around. He was in Africa. He's typing to me on Skype with 7,000 pings saying, "I'm in Africa. I'm going to send you this team logo and stuff." He's an absolute G. But I keep an eye on him if he is playing today. He's a little on the back burner these days for TCM Gaming. A
little bit preoccupied, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Flying around the world does take it out of you. But when the tank's cool, the tank's cool. And we'll have to see if he does join us here today and keep our eyes on that man. But we need to kind of start delving into this matchup and what we can expect from these two teams, really, against each other especially. As we now know, they have played each other through several seasons. They know each other's strategies, or what they used to be. But this will be the first time they're meeting up in this season, so it could be something new. It may be something they aren't so prepared for. But then again, TCM have looked pretty prepared to this point for anyone they've faced. The anti-strats have been on point, their work ethic has been phenomenal, and the gameplay itself with the newer additions has been brilliant. Still Mojo coming into that lineup, being a beast himself. It's been a very hard team to deny. But Denial, on the other hand, had a couple of lacking moments.
They've
and
been
against
a bit
each
shaky
other.
for sure,
They really have. They've had the individuals, but I just don't feel they're gelling that well together. Do you feel that TCM might be able to exploit that? Because TCM have had their struggles. But overall, I feel, those struggles are minor compared to what Denial are dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle for sure. I think Denial have been unable to think about what they can do in the matches, basically. And they haven't got Elian to kind of negate that, He's always been that guy to say, okay, I'll go 3 versus 1 and win. But having said that, Lucky Cracky did a very good job against TCM Gaming when they played.
Did.
So, you can make the comparisons. Maybe Lucky Cracky's just being in a very good team, which they certainly are. Although they did lose in their last matchup, I think they could put some real pressure onto Denial could put some real pressure onto TCM if they've got themselves back into this game. Remember, we said the same thing about C-Play. They've been very bad up to this point, and then they were very good. Maybe the same is going to come from Denial.
And for me, it's the thing with TCM is you can never say it's an easy victory from these guys. Are constantly throwing games. They get the early advantage, and then they just struggle from moment to moment, and I don't get it. They literally will pick up the first 2 maps, and then the last one, the one they need to win, that gets away from them. Then the other team gets the confidence back. they pick up the next. And it's this constant struggle of not quite finishing the deed there for TCM. I think that might be an issue that they need to address here, because if Denial get that kind of in the back of their minds, the game will never quite be over. So we will be seeing the tank choices starting to begin. The first map will be Ensk coming up, and you know, Denial used to be great at this map. This was one of their good maps back in the day. They completely and utterly revolutionized this map a couple of times, adding in tanks that not many other people risked to use. They used strategies that were a little bit, I wouldn't say cheesy, but they were certainly very decisive. Let's use that word instead. But TCM looked very well rounded. I've loved their usage of the 6 and 7 line. Still Mojo going up there in the IS3s has been pretty spot on. Who has the edge here, though?
I think it's going to be TCM Gaming. I've been very impressed with them on Ensk for sure. They've been a very steady team on that map. Whether they can do that again against Denial Gaming, who've struggled before they lost their previous matchup on Ensk, that's another question. They just have to be consistent and very strong with their main tanks. Yeah,
so we're going to see those tank choices being made. 5100s and IS3s. It's the name of the game right now. We saw a T69 coming in for Isuba recently. Didn't really pay off, let's be serious here. It was good to a point and then kind of crumbled a little. I like the usage of the tanks they're using right now. I don't think we need to see the IS6s that we saw Wusa bringing in. That was a little bit of a kind of left field ball. That wasn't exactly what we wanted to see coming out. So we are seeing the fact that these two look as though they're going with the normal kind of style out here, the IS3 5100 mix. And it doesn't really tell us much about the game we're about to watch, because it is such an all-rounding lineup on this map. They can go into the green zone that does have a lot of cover and buildings that you can basically use almost to the city effect. The 6 and 7 line also complement the 5100s and IS3s. And, well, the city side, obviously, it's perfect for it. But what sort of strategy do you think we're going to see coming out from TCM here? Because these guys occasionally do like to vary. They have adapted a little bit more of an aggressive style to them. Is this something we might see here?
If they've been looking at Denial Gaming's previous matchups, then they must be thinking, how can we outthink Denial? That's really where TCM's strength lies. They just need to get themselves in the right position where Denial's kind of on the back foot, rotating maybe a couple of bad positioning plays. Right. They actually lost to School Bus on this matchup, though, on the previous matchup between School Bus and TCM Gaming. Your official was up in that corner. The problem was he couldn't actually take down Apoel in the AMX 5100. And if he did, I think they would have won. So a little bit of a mistake from TCM. I just think it was a little bit unlucky from him. So that's not really indicative. But the lineups, as you said, triple IS3, double AMX 5100 for TCM, going for more vanilla, and for the same for Denial.
Well, exact lineup shared between them. It's going to come down to skill and tactics alone. So guys, let's get ready for that first map, and it's going to be Ensk. So, into Ensk we go. Battle number 1 in the south. In blue, it will be Denial eSports looking to pick up a victory here against one of their old rivals, you could say. And in the north, in red, it's TCM trying to hold them back. But with those ever so similar lineups, where are we seeing them going?
Looks like Denial eSports are not farting about at all, heading straight in towards the city with all their tanks. Apart from Snip, one of the team captains for Denial, we've seen them talk about how they didn't really have one-shot caller, just going to go straight, and Magus does spot them out, so good information for TCM. They'll probably end up losing that one. Still Mojo on the cross, we have an early engagement.
We really do. Still Mojo could be in trouble here. Look at him backing the hell away in the IS3, taking a couple, exchanging a couple. Potomako and him go pretty close. Oh, that bounce just keeping Yukai alive in this one pretty much. As Materius gets one from the side, he's going to be careful here. There's a lot more tanks backing up Yukai than you'd want to see. Now here comes the rest of them. Zenef comes around. Nears Pizzoni. Yukai could be in trouble. The flank, however, should be kicking into action soon. Yukai must play safe. He needs the support. Eurofish will not be able to come around from the side. Potomako is there. This looks like Denial are doing superiorly better. This is very close, however. TCM could lose out here. Yukai down to nothing. Eurofish trying to step in, trying to hold Zenef back. And Yukai that might just escape for a second, but the fire on all corners, leaving Eurofish to take down Zenef. And you see this going back and forth as Butcher finds Yukai. He needed to die a long time ago, and now Eurofish in a 1v2 situation, cap underway. Eurofish gets one, it doesn't matter, Nias Pizzoni is there. Still Mojo now has to restrain from going around just into the side. Nias Pizzoni, very low, can do very little here, but he's gonna have to dig deep and pull this one out because it's not over yet. The fight continues as Durs finally gets into the action. A little late to the party, but let's hope he can do it as the cap has been dealt with. Durs now up with still Mojo. Well, he was until Materius took him down, and now that IS-3 has to get in on the action. Materius is low, Podomako fairly low. But he can do this, Durs. It'll be absolutely unbelievable. Here's the cross shots on the side. Durs does have a touch of cover, but not a great deal. Trees falling down, Materius finding better cover. You can see the cap has begun. Durs is in between a rock and a hard place. He's chipped away, however, as Materius does go down, and Durs needs to make his way back to that cap very, very soon. With the likes of Podomako still in play, he's got to be careful. Every corner could contain an enemy. 17 seconds left. Podomako taking him round the houses, lining it up with that IS-3. Durs, though, gets the first, but it's exchanged. Podomako now left on nothing. Durs must land the next shell, but I'm not sure if he has it into hand. Let's find out. 3 seconds left. The cap almost completed. Durs might get one, and he doesn't. Podomako denies. Base was even captured. Denial come out on top, and that was a good fight for them.
Unbelievable. I did not expect TCM Gaming to be so utterly thoughtless in their initial tactic.
It was...
that is the word I would use to really coin a phrase. They were pretty interesting where their positioning was. They were two tanks and two IS-3s behind those hold down positions. I could see the logic. The hold down, they didn't expect Denial to be so aggressive, but they didn't expect is the 3 tanks to come around and focus.
True.
And it was the initial damage they did which gave them the advantage. That's Denial. They took Still Mojo down low, then they tried to flank around when they should have just focused on the 3 tanks going forwards. Because the flank took too long, and TCM already lost a tier 8 by that point. So it was really like a back and forwards for a lot of the time, but at the end of the day, the only way I could see TCM Gaming actually winning that would have been to have an extra 5100 instead of an IS-3.
It just did not go well, did it, guys? That's going to have to be like a go back to the VODs and watch that through again, because that did happen fast, even though it was a long fight. All the big pieces fell into place very quickly there. And in the end, it was Denial coming out on top. You can see, look at this brawl. Every single player engaged into the Zenef gets caught on the side, goes a little low. Yukai somehow backs away quite well, but only into the crossfires of Butcher. And Denial somehow maintaining the advantage at this point. Very nicely done, utilizing what they had. Nias Pizzoni finding Eurofish, just adding insult to injury. And TCM were just constantly out of position, I felt. The crossfires were always in the hands of Denial there. Every single little exchange, every little bit of movement, every single cross was covered. And that could be a problem going to the next map, considering it's Himmelsdorf, a map that does need that cohesion, that does need that team play. And the worrying thing is, I've not seen TCM actually starting with a loss recently. They normally pick up the first 2 and then may struggle. However, I've not seen them kind of getting away to a very low point and then having to build back up. Could this be an issue?
Could it be a good thing? That's the question.
You never know. That is a very good point.
With TCM Gaming, they're a team who always leads 2-3 or draw it 2-all. So maybe a loss is a good thing at the beginning. Maybe they need a little bit of a kick to get going.
Maybe.
And it's just a perfect kick for them because Denial have done so well on the first map. We need to find Himmelsdorf, which is next, as you said. I've been impressed with TCM on Himmelsdorf. With Still Mojo in the lineup, they play that Kazna Cruz style. They have his influence, and you can see it in their movement. They beat School Bus on this map from that below tactic. It's been really good to see. It's going to struggle against Denial because despite the fact that they've lost Elian, they're still a very, very good city map team. We saw it in Ensk, and we'll see it on Himmelsdorf potentially. Sure,
the irony I find is pretty much the fact that TCM have picked up more team captains into a team that already had one, pretty much. So now you get what Denial used to have, the brilliance of several people adding to one factor, now kind of being against them. It's this wonderful change of kind of events that's kind of given us this new matchup. So I think we can start looking at the tank choices coming through. I think they've pretty much been made there. Any surprises? Is this what we expected?
Not surprises, just 3 50-100s,
City
2
maps.
IS-3s, 2 tier 1s. We would expect that, and we got that.
It's not a bad thing. I like seeing the good, well-rounded ones that we can see kind of really coming down to the skill and the choices and the setup and the positions. We saw it on the last map there being Ensk. It definitely came down to those sort of moments. But guys, we're going to find out if they can do it again. Who can believe? Already TCM struggling. Let's find out if it's going to happen again on Himmelsdorf. Welcome into Himmelsdorf. Currently it's TCM in the cold, but Denial leading with one map to the good. They will be starting in the north in blue. TCM will be in the south in red. And we're going to have to find out who's really walking away with the advantage. But what sort of beginning are Denial bringing to this game?
Looks a normal beginning. Butcher Zenith heading towards the hill. Near Pizzorni in pursuit. He is playing an IS-3, so it's going to be a 50-50. Indeed does go for the hill. Snip right behind him. Carmen in the middle. Near Meritorious, last but not least, in that IS-3, keeping the cross on. Still Mojo goes first. Still Mojo does take a shell there, but Devil gets the 50-meter proxy spot. And it looks like for TCM, they're going for a very old school, though Yukai, a very new school, push up in towards the 8 line. A little bit like Virtus Pro, just not so resource heavy. They got a lot of tanks in the back. If a tank finds its way onto Yukai, he could be in trouble.
He certainly could be. Out on a limb is a understatement. Devil nicely just dropping himself into the corner right here. You can see him trying to keep on the spots as best he can if necessary. No one really there to challenge, however. They haven't got that many spots of the opponent, so a brave beginning from TCM. This could all go wrong, however. If they are caught out, if they get into the wrong spots, they could be made to pay, as Carmen will spot out Yukai. And the rest keeping eyes on. Devil has split across. Polo and Mako now peering up. You can see that slowly but surely, you're at Still Mojo having to be a little more careful. Yorfish coming across. You can see the tier 1 battle being exchanged. And his knee is in the background there. So at the moment, TCM quite passive, but also with someone out on a fairly aggressive limb.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, Near Pizzorni was heading onto the hill. The spot came out onto Yukai, and now he's come off the hill. So he's trying to get the cross on. Zenith does take down Magus, Zenith does take down Magus indeed, so the 5100 coming away, and first kill going to Denial. So far the game is going to Denial as well. Yukai took a shell, Still Mojo took a shell, Magus took a shell, and Denial are doing all the right things, putting more resources towards Yukai, the guy kind of on his own, although he's gone to a position where he's a little bit more supported. There gets the cross onto Potomako, fantastic shot, takes him and takes the first shell for TCM.
Brilliantly played there by Yukai, reading the situation very nicely. Does have to be careful because Materius now appears round the corner. That could be trouble. That IS-3 will now back away a little more carefully as Yukai now, he's fairly low. Let's bear in mind, he's down to 727. Not the worst position to be in, but still not ideal, as let's keep on board with what else is going on. Still Mojo moving up. It looks like TCM are building themselves into a bit of a push here. Eurofish has started to mobilize down that 2 to 3 line, and you've got Durs supporting as well, but I'm going to keep my eyes on the kind of 8 line as well, because these are the guys who are kind of in the front lines here. Shell will bounce off Yukai. And well, who's in the better position here at the moment?
It depends what TCM does from here. Meritorious is on his own, completely unsupported as you can see. So 25100 into Meritorious would be his game over. Simple as that. It needs to be Yizny and Zenichta to do that move, which it does look like it's happening slowly but surely. Does Denial eSports see this? Because if they don't, they're in trouble. The only one supporting is Zenith up there, but he is at range, so it'll be a little bit harder, and I believe he's actually going to be rotating off.
Well, that could be a fact coming into this, and Yukai still keeping everyone's attention over towards him. Carmen constantly spreading out, but look at this. His knee is peering around, looking for it. There's no one there to deny them on this side. No one spotted these guys out just yet. They have fairly free reign, and if they fully execute round the next corner, that could mean near on game over for Materius, as you mentioned. This could spell trouble. Turret not even looking in that way. Durs would be the first around with Wizeney behind him. Still Mojo and Yukai could play the game of doing distractions here, and it looks like it might just about be go time, and Materius is in trouble. 2 shells back to back, and another 2. Materius going so low. Look at this firing barrage. He is going to be shaking in his boots, and the boots no longer stand as Wisely will pick up the kill and take him down. But has that spurred on a push down this side? Yes, it has. Still Mojo now moving up as well. This is like a cohesive move from TCM.
Depends what their execution is like from how Motomaka keeps the cross on, but TCM are on the forwards. They got the hold down position. Butcher doing a good job on Still Mojo.
Yes, Still Mojo being caught out there. Not a great deal he can do. He is down very low, 126 HP. He's going to have to back away and depend on the support of Eurofish and Durs coming across, but you can see the fire from on top of that hill coming in. It is connecting, and it's Niers Bazzoni to take down Still Mojo. Eurofish and Yukai are not too pretty here either. They need some help, and I've got to say, that lack of hill presence coming out from TCM has hindered them a little, allowing Niers Bazzoni to come around, find Eurofish, and bring the game definitely back, possibly in the hands of Denial here.
They are in a real driving seat right now. 2 tanks up to 1 against TCM. 2 tier 8 tanks down, 1 tier 8 tank down for Denial. So all good for them, but does Durs have the reload to deal with this one onto Yukai?
Well, it's Potomako I'm looking at with Butcher. They are caught between a rock and a hard place. Why is it any does? Oh, the double kill coming in for TCM. Back-to-back work there. Short-sighted play. Now Niers Bazzoni must be careful. He is on pretty much his own in this position. Zenith still around. TCM not sure where he is. This could spell trouble. The cap is underway. The cap, you can hear the sirens ringing. Durs getting himself back there. Devil as well as Yukai tucking himself away in the corner. Niers Bazzoni now joined by Zenith. This could really mean trouble. Wisely is the first on the scene here. Challenging down Niers Bazzoni. Gets 2 shells back to back. Looking for his third. He's going to get it. Can he get one more? The tier 1 battle being won out as well. This looks like TCM finally getting the action they wanted.
Carmen going to try and find his way onto the side, but Yukai and YZE doing a fantastic job. But look how much HP Durs still have. 1,014. Zenith is maybe going to be able to pick up Yukai if he can find him, but it's pretty obvious where he's coming from, so he's going to have to try and go across, join Carmen in that tier 1, who's going to be going down towards the cap of TCM. That's the real option for Denial Esports. They have really no options, but the only one they kind of still has in terms of a jar left on that door before it closes is the cap. And Zenith going to peek across, but he does get found by Durs.
And Durs is not going to miss that shot. Takes it on the cross, 267, and the follow-up. Durs is playing perfectly at the moment. This is brilliant stuff. The man who barely took a shell throughout this game, but now Carmen must be found. Last man alive, Devil will get the first, and he will get the last. There we have it. TCM are back in the game, ladies and gents, picking that one up towards the end decisively. But in the middle, that got a bit shaky there.
Ooh, that kept me on tenterhook. That was amazing plays by Durs at the end of the day.
Yes.
2,770 HP, folks. You don't see that every day. Almost hitting that 3K mark, which is a very, very big rarity. But that was it for TCM Gaming. I must say, though, Durs, he wasn't the most important factor. Yes, he did a lot of damage, but it wasn't all useful damage. Yisni from the side, from the behind with the 5100, getting that first kill onto the IS3, pushing around to try and take down Yuko was absolutely fantastic. But great to see TCM saw the weakness. Meritorious unsupported. That engagement went perfectly, but then they went 2-1 down as TCM Gaming were in the worst positions. But that flank from the 5100 really did push the favor back in towards their side. And really from that point onwards, Zenith being so far onto that hill, you were talking about how the hill is so important. Yes, it is important, but if you get the timing right.
Yeah, and I think they kind of struggled on that one a little bit there, but I think we need to start looking towards that next map because it is going to be steps. And this is something that's completely different from the last two that we've just witnessed. A completely open map. It has its areas for the engagement. It's kind of predefined to an extent. But what can we expect from these two? Two teams showing very different styles of play so far. And it's not a bad style of play, but it's certainly kind of up in the air towards how it ends, because even that on Himmelsdorf did get close, but I feel that TCM just kind of pulled together a little better. But will it work on steps? That's the big question in my mind.
It worked on steps against Lucky Karaki, who did end up winning the Series 3-2, but at the end of the day, it was a better tactic they had, and I think if TCM can replicate something like that where they're outthinking the other team, like they did in this position, pushing onto Niers Bazzoni despite Zenith being support, Yisni being very hard on those pushes, great to see. Comes from behind first and comes from the side in the second. Just absolutely amazing play from him altogether. Carmen tries to make it work, but at the end of the day, that was definitely a win for TCM Gaming. As I was saying on steps, more of a thinking man's map.
Yeah, a lot of options available. We've seen a handful of variations so far, I like to say. More on the tactics than the tanks. We used to see a little bit of a bigger pool coming out of what people would play. You know, the 416 was now, you know, it used to be a staple diet almost on this map. People constantly tried it out, used it quite nicely. It had its place here. And that's kind of seemed to fade away a little. Is there any reason we've kind of seen maybe the more standardized tanks coming back into play? Is it just a little safer?
It's because we have that blind pick now. We don't know what the other team is doing, and then we can't counter them straight on that. We have to pick either an outrageous lineup we've seen, for instance, from Rusa with the I6s, or we pick a very normal standard lineup, more towards the heavy side. We're seeing more I3s and T32s on this map. But generally, the more standard, the better for these guys, and I think that's going to be the same this time round. A lot of IS3, a lot of T32s, MX3090, T69s is going to be very likely. 416 you were mentioning. Again, I don't think it's going to be an option.
Not now. I think it's going to be removed out of the kind of pool that we used to have. I think it is now down to, as you said, those T69s, the 1390s. And I love the way the 1390s have now found a great position on this map on occasion when played correctly. Is kind of, you know when if you used to watch the kind of documentaries as a kid when it was like, you know, the savannah and it's got the hyenas constantly tracking down these bigger animals and they just pick away at it one by one using the speed and the agility around it. You can almost see it in this game if those 1390s come into play correctly as almost a pack animal, just hunting down those bigger tanks, you know, the T32s if it gets picked, even the Pershing to an extent. And I'd love to see that here. I would like to see these guys using it well because there are some great 1390 players amongst the two teams and it's certainly an option, but I'm not sure if they get themselves into a position to kind of accompany that, because at the moment I look back at these maps and I look back at TCM especially and how much very specific players did for them. And I also look at Magus, who pretty much uncovered the strategies of the likes of Lucky Karaki on this one time and time again when he went into the situation, spotted out the entirety of the opponents, not only once but twice. That is a very important factor here.
It's going to be about those tier ones. I think more and more in towards steps we're seeing, the cap being used. We never saw that in Season 3 at all. It was always about the brawl towards the trench side. Now we're seeing the caps. The tier ones have been always important, but when you have a guy like Magus who gets all 5 tanks in one go, absolutely fantastic stuff from him. But
definitely.
I think we're starting to see the tanks come in. Triple AMX 3090, double T69, double tier 1 for TCM. So indeed going for the normal vanilla kind of lineup here, which is good to see. No T32, which I believe Denial have picked up here with a double AMX 3090, double T69, T32, double tier 1. So very similar lineup, indeed the same lineup. The only difference is Denial have a T32, which is going to give them a little more hull down ability, but a little less flexibility when it comes to capping or getting the flank on, even dealing with a flank from TCM Gaming in general.
And whose lineup do you prefer a little here? Is there a preference with the team obviously playing those tanks in mind, or are you pretty much on the fence on this one?
I think one T32 gives TCM enough flexibility, gives Denial enough flexibility that it just comes down to that tactic they use.
Well, we'll find out momentarily. I think the teams are just making sure everything is ready. TCM saying it's almost time to go, guys. So if you bear with us, we can get this one started nice and quickly. We are currently tied at 1-1, and it's going to be time to find out who may take the lead here on Steps, the next map. TCM up against Denial eSports, all tied, all even at the moment. It comes down to steps, maybe to find out who might take that map advantage. So, in the south, it will be Denial eSports, seeing how they can pull this one through again, maybe pull off a little bit of the magic we just saw, but in the way, it's TCM in the north in red. However, this time not running with Magus in the lineup, sticking with Devil and still Mojo here, so could be a little bit of a tricky situation, but what are we seeing from the start?
So, Denial, in a kind of all-in tactic, we've seen this before, not being successful, pushing all their tanks from the south over towards that trench side, and TCM Gaming, pretty standard TCM style. A couple of tanks here, making sure they keep the cap closed up with the tier 1s as well. Then all the hull down tanks right in that A7, B7 area. and Eurofish finally towards the right with the bush spot. So an all-in tactic by Denial. They can't really retreat from this one, but YZNE wasn't aggressive enough to actually catch them out.
No, he got a little further forward, but then didn't fancy his chances in that 1390. So as you said, backing away, Dietrich Deep and Yukai will be waiting there. Snip, as you can see, making his way forward in that tier 1. We said this could be a very important factor to how the game plays out. If he gets a good couple of spots, it may reveal some of the positions these guys are sitting in. And you know, which sort of beginning may kind of warrant a little more, because it looks like actually Denial are going quite aggressive here.
Eurofish actually getting caught out. Could be disastrous, but no shells landing. No shells landing, I say. And Xenef gets one of his own. 1142 left on him. So good spots by Snip, but because Denial eSports can't hit a barn door, he didn't manage to get any damage onto him. So Eurofish will get away scot-free. Snip getting spotted a little bit too late. That's because the camo value these kind of guys are using. They've obviously got all their crew with 100%. So really, really hard to spot that when you're playing at such a small tank. Potomac got himself a good position up here. We've seen the likes of Ruster kind of champion this place, and so far been very successful with it, although perhaps not winning the overall matchup. TCM starting to rotate back around with all their tanks heading towards that left side. They can see how much Denial have committed there, and they want to try from a different angle.
And I don't blame them at all. Lucky, more than anything, that, as you said, Denial sometimes lack a little bit of the aim to match up with what they're doing, so they do get away fairly unscathed by this. Durs will be now joining in, and you got DJ Deep, the T69s kind of following up as well. So nice quick rotate. Has that been predicted at all by their opponents, Denial, or are they still kind of making sure the coast is clear?
I think it's been predicted almost immediately. A 40-second lag. Denial eSports immediately got that ground. Snip went forwards in the tier 1. He was pretty much the kind of I don't know, bullet catcher, I guess you could call him.
Meat shield.
Yeah, exactly. Going forwards, and if he dies, it doesn't really matter. Niep has only joined in from behind with the hull down T69, and Denial now have that trench side in almost complete entirety, and TCM have started to play aggressively. Didn't get caught out by any of the tier 1s because there's only one for Denial eSports. That's the one up in the towards the right-hand corner. You can see his pretty much job is going to be common there is to stop any cap that comes in.
Well, it might be a threat soon enough. We've seen these guys happy to do it on maps like Prokhorovka, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it here on Steps. Very similar maps in the way they play out on occasion. Still Mojo still trying to hunt down one of the opponents as Devil just adjusting around. And we are seeing the fact that TCM just finding their footing here after that first exchange. Neron got caught out. And your screen being one of them, Neron. Try to be a little smart about this one and not rush into anything too fast. Durs is there. Carmen has been spotted out though, so this could mean a little bit of trouble for TCM, one, and even bigger for Denial. You know, as much as the information is key, you don't want to be losing players, especially as tier 1s on this map. And at the moment, Carmen not so aware, which could be a bit of a problem.
The only thing he knows right now is that he's spotted. He doesn't know who he's spotted by. The only thing he can see is that his bulb got lit up. So it's a 3-second delay between spotted and then the light going on, which is about enough time for a guy to turn his turret a certain amount of degrees and get the shot off. Obviously TCM didn't want to commit to that. Meritorious receiving a little bit of damage there, down to 1316. I believe that was from earlier. But all in all, this looks like a pretty static map. For me, that's pretty much what I would expect because it's Steps. I mean, how would you commit from one of these two teams? If Denial decides to go for the cap, which is pretty much the only option they have, they're going to get caught out by all the TCM tanks around there. It's very easy for them to stop it. Same goes for TCM. If they go for the cap, you'll have the likes of Meritorious back in 45 to a minute. And it's going to be very, 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 very hard to deal with in that T32 because he's got so much armor on the mantlet, 298mm, which is far beyond even, you know, a T69 or AMX 3090. They have about 244 with APCR, 250 with heat for the T69, so there's really no option for them.
It looks like there is further rotation from TCM. They're kind of retracting back from the south of this map, heading back up north. YZNE was the first to make it through. He was the one who was down that kind of central pathway, that 5 and 6 line. He's going to be heading back through. Durs not too far away. DJ Deep and Yukai taking their time a little more, but still, is this to maybe make sure they're defending their flag in case there was a threat, or are they just trying to find maybe a little challenge and a pick?
They're just roaming around the map. They have all the time in the world. there's no reason for them to stick in one place. They're playing the AMX 3090s at the end of the day. This is what they're good at. You know, try for one location. If you don't find a way in, try for another location. You've still got plenty of options on the cards, still plenty of time to lay them down. And, well, I don't see a win coming out on these two because of the nature of this map. DJ Red Deep gets spotted out there by Butcher in his AMX 3090, but still, although it does receive the first bit of damage towards TCM, that was probably from, I believe, Meritorious there in the T32, 318 damage. That 300 is the average from the T32, but YZNE is going to push, and does look like TCM have timed this perfectly with Butcher being on the retreat. Nia Pizzoni being kind of caught in the open. They are actually going to have to try and get themselves out of this bad place.
Yeah, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. There's certainly enough time for an engagement. Whether or not they can find the entirety, that's a different question. But those 3090s, we know they're fast, they're capable, they can do the job. But every corner is still a threat here. Let's bear in mind there's a reason these 3090s are being a little cautious. You don't want to just going head first into the opponent the whole time. Yukai and DJ Deep seem to be backing away though. Is this just them, once again probing here on TCM, or was that a near-on committal? That
was a near-on committal. If Butcher had been in the position he was spotted out last, then it would have been disastrous for Denial because TCM committed those 3 AMX 3090s, but because he wasn't there and they rotated at the right time, it was almost impossible for them to do anything, and they might have to retreat out here. Nia Pizzoni, though, doesn't look hungry for a kill or a bit of damage onto TCM, but Yukai does have the cross, so it'll be very hard for him to actually go for it, though. Devil does find himself at the end of a very nasty shell. And, well, first frag going towards Denali eSports.
Yeah, so already a little bit of a tricky situation. 2 minutes and 29 seconds. There's not a great deal of time for a full-on engage. Bearing in mind how quick those 3090s can go, how those tier 1s can hide, they can still try and draw it out if it goes wrong. It may be a garbage time push coming in, but there could also be the threat of a little bit of a scuffle between these. But smart play from TCM, backing away a touch and just finding a little bit of cover that they can use here. The deflate of that little railway keep themselves fairly protected. As you can see, Materius being consistently spotted out. Now joined by Nia Pizzoni. No shells have, however, connected. I'm sure they're going to keep trying, however. But 1 minute and 55, I think this game is pretty much done for here.
It's definitely done for. As I said, the nature of this map, it doesn't allow any of these two teams to basically go for the win. You need that situation where at the beginning, you either spot them out or you don't actually get them at all. Although we do see the push coming out from Denial. It was discovered very quickly there from Eurofish, so some damage coming the way of the Polish juggernauts, Denial eSports. But what can they do with 1 minute and 28 seconds? Not very much, I say.
Yeah, the speed is definitely with TCM here. They will not get caught out, surely. And it's going to be a game of cat and mouse, constantly running away. Eurofish already falling back. Maybe YZNE there. They're setting up a little bit of a crossfire. You've got the T69s and supporting. So, look at this. Look at the open space here. If Denial want to make a cross, they're going to have to go past the gunfire coming in from that T69. 1 minute left. We are seeing Butcher now appearing on the horizon, so he's snuck through. So 1390's getting into the action. 3 shells, 4 shells. Butcher's almost done, but there we have it. Comes in from YZNE in the end. And this is not an engagement that Denial will really want here, surely.
No, I don't think so. Potomako does find himself a good position. The cap does come on. DJ Red Deep, Yukai find Potomako very quickly, so it could be a 2 versus 1.
It certainly could be, and we are seeing the shells bouncing away from each other. Yukai hunting him downhill, looking for the way around those rocks, literally dancing around them, but there's fire coming from DJ Red Deep. They're exchanging, but it's a 2v1, and Potomako is at a huge disadvantage. And my god, he just felt that one. The cap has started. We are seeing further fire coming in. DJ Red Deep needs to be careful here. Yukai swings into action, trying to cover up his teammate. 2 shells back to back. Nia Pizzoni is low, but I'm not sure if there's enough time for this one. 15
seconds left. YZNE does find the cap. Meritorious low now. 1,240 amount of time goes down, leaving Nia Pizzoni and Zenef left. But Carmen is on the other side of the map. 5 seconds to go. This is going to be a draw.
Yeah, a little bit of a scuffle towards the end then, but nothing too dangerous. Draw it out and look for the next map. And let's kind of break down why maybe they went for the draw rather than the win there, because both teams at one point had an advantage of some kind, whether it be a tier 1 advantage, whether or not they got the initial spot. Both teams had a good idea, even if it's a small advantage, of how to maybe win that. Was there too much of a risk maybe to kind of commit to that one fully, and maybe playing for the draw here, maybe able to get them onto a map they feel more comfortable on?
Well, you could see Denial eSports went for the aggressive action, and they got punished for it. It was four TCM tanks alive, for damage dealing tanks alive for only 2 of Denali eSports. They had their 2 tier 1s, but they were of no consequence. So we could see how Steps plays out. If you decide to push in that situation, a good team will always counter it. And that's basically what would have happened to TCM if they did decide to push the Denial cap. And we saw what happened when Denial tried to push the TCM cap. So indeed, I think you're correct. Just draw it out. It was garbage time. They had 2 minutes. If it worked, it worked. Basically, they wanted to win on the cap and not with the damage anyway. But why Yizny, I should be saying his name correctly, Yizny came from the side and finished that one off. Moving on to Ruinberg next.
And Ruinberg, I feel, is going to have a similar set of tanks as kind of combined of the last couple of maps. So you get maybe a 5100 in here. I'm hoping not too many IS-3s. I feel that's almost too indicative now of a city push, and I'm not such a fan of it. I still like those 1390s, the T69s in play. What do you think we're going to see coming out in the form of tanks in this one? Because there is a little bit of variety here. It's not just it's Himmelsdorf and it's Ensk, therefore we are getting these tanks. There's a little bit of room for creativity here. Yeah,
we're seeing a lot of creativity on Ruinberg. At the start, it was TCM picking a heavy lineup and absolutely decimating the other team. And we saw, I believe, Lucky Karaki pick a very, very heavy lineup. And they picked 4 AMX 5100s and just absolutely decimated the other team in a very controlled fashion. I have to say, though, it's risky because, if you have an IS-3 against an AMX 5100, he gets himself into the right position. That 1,400 HP does go down pretty quickly, especially in support with the T69. So I'm expecting a mixture of T69s, AMX 5100s. An IS-3 is still a possibility, but I just hope I don't see one team pick 3 AMX 3090s, because we've seen that too many times on Ruinberg now. One team picks a very light lineup and it gets decimated.
That is an issue when you come into blind picks. Obviously, there's always that threat of if you go all in towards one of the kind of extremes, the lighter, quicker, slightly more efficient lineup to an extent, you can get outdone quite drastically just on those tank picks. So it's sometimes about hedging your bets a little here, making sure you got a good selection of all the above. And I think we are seeing at least TCM's lineup find its form. What are we seeing from them here?
I think they did exactly what you said. Double AMX 5100, IS-3, double AMX 3090, double tier 1. Those AMX 3090s are going to have to be very, very, very on point, because they don't have the HP of the 5100, they don't have the damage of the 5100. The only thing they have going for them is the speed. So that's going to be the most important thing. But it does look like Denial have gone for pretty much the same thing. Double 5100, double AMX 3090, double T1. Neopazzoni usually plays a T69, so I'm expecting him to play that. Could be another 5100. If it is, it would be dangerous for Denial if they get it in the right dangerous to TCM if they get it in the right position.
Certainly.
But it's very hard to do because it's such a big tank. If it gets caught on the cross, it'll go down very quickly, even to an MX 3090. But we are still waiting for Neopazzoni. For me, I'd say TCM's been a better team on this map.
I tend to agree, sadly. I do kind of go with you on that one. I'm not 100% sold by them today. They haven't been bad, but they haven't been phenomenal yet. They've not maybe go, do you know what? That's the team I expected. They're still looking a little shaky here, and I'm not sure if it's just Denial being, competent enough to challenge on every single level, but TCM still seem to lack a little bit of what we've seen before. We've seen them, I don't know, they've always been quite a cohesive unit. They've seen a little bit better together here with Stillmojo in the lineup, but I haven't seen that so much today. I wouldn't say that it's completely missing. I just feel it's a little bit quieter than before. And maybe Denial are actually finding their footing in this one. I do think Denial are ready, so hopefully we won't be taking too long in this, and we can get that countdown started for you guys nice and quickly, because we want to see who's going to take the advantage. We're still tied at 1-1 here. And, well, at the moment, who do you think's got the edge?
I think it's pretty even. Denial have certainly stepped up, but I'm expecting TCM to win this map.
Well, I think we're going to find out very soon. The countdown has begun. Guys, let's get started on the next map, Ruinberg. Alrighty, so into the fourth battle we go. TCM and Denial eSports still tied neck to neck at 1 point each.
Time to roll
Let's find out who will start chipping away at the other here. In the south, in blue, is Denial eSports. Team who are maybe starting to warm up into the season. Certainly looking a little more competent than before. But is it enough to take down TCM in the north in red? WGL, DJ Deep, all up to something here. But what do you think's the plan overall for these guys?
Well, WGL, TCM in general, all heading towards the village. We've seen that a lot from the north, and I think it's a better option. But Denial eSports have done what I said last time a team should do. The AAMX 1390 trying to get the cross on against Euroffish. Zenith does manage to get away, gets a lower ground here. And that's a good thing for TCM. If the higher ground goes into their side, it's going to be very hard for Denial to be on the retreat. But at the end of the day, TCM needs to be more offensive, a little bit more strong, and that's what they're doing, pushing up the top.
Yeah, they're not messing around here. WGL just found Snip. That's a tier 1 down. Information has stopped. Blind shots, however, will not. WGL does catch one on the cross, and we are going to see maybe a little bit of a brawl coming down because Materius is out on a limb, but I like the split here. They've still left Still Mojo back, so there could be a nice crossfire, but look at WGL. He is down to nothing but a whisker. He could be a 1-shot and a half, so this is unbelievable stuff already from Denial. But Butcher might be caught out.
Butcher certainly has been caught out, 993, but whether... Oh, Butcher gets so lucky with that shot. That was minimal damage there from Still Mojo, Meritorious, and Butcher. Butcher finally lands that last shell, but whoa, he got lucky.
Yeah, luck was certainly on his side, but we are going to see the game now continuing. DJ moving back around, and Zenith fighting Magus. That's a tier 1 down. DJ Deep moving in with WGL, trying to find Butcher. And there you go, WGL left on nothing, still takes down his counterpart. DJ Deep finds Materials. That's a 2v1 going through here. Let's bear in mind, there are still backup here for Denial, but they are not stepping in. Materials is left out to dry, and DJ Deep picks that up, drops him down, and keeps TCM in this fight.
Potomaco now having to retreat near Pizzoni, completely out of position. Zenith has been caught.
Yeah, but it's WGL, you got to be careful. Look how low he is still. Zenith, though, taking a bit of a pounding here. 3 shells back-to-back from afar going in. He's trying to get out. That 3-man hit squad does the job, does again. The standout player from previous maps doing what he does best. And now Nias Pizzoni, Potomaco, and Carmen have to dig deep here.
Let's all just chill out, guys, for 1 second. So, what does TCM have on the option cards? Well, they need to wait for WGL, GJ Red Deep, Durs, and Eurofish to all reload. Potomaco's definitely reloaded. He's still got 100% HP, and Pizzoni not playing an autoloader is definitely reloaded. He's going to get the shot onto Derzanikta from the side. And that was, as I said before, fantastic play by TCM. Zenith, he got caught out because he was in the same position. The blind shots just absolutely decimated. But it looks like TCM, they aren't slowing down.
No, DJ Deep, he's got a lot of HP to play with. Why not play with Nias Pizzoni? But he might have got into a bit of a trap here taken. 2 shells back-to-back, but he does take down Nias Pizzoni in the end. So nicely played out to him. WGL trying to be careful. They're having to back away. No risks being taken. And this looks like TCM are on the verge of picking this one up. They are not stopping. Potomaco is the next player to sadly appear on the radar. Durs on the hunt, being a beast so far. It doesn't look like he's stopping. 2 shells back-to-back. Eurofish comes flying in the 1390 here, looking to find more. 2 tanks on your tail. You are now going down, Potomaco. There's no other way this can go, surely, as he's trying to dodge everything possible. Eurofish just throwing shell after shell at him. But there we go. Track finally comes in, but he needs to land it. And my God, Eurofish, stop fluffing these shots. Put the poor boy out of his misery as Durs comes in with a little bit of a love tap towards the end, leaving just Carmen alive, and he is not hiding from this lineup.
Nope, we got 5 tanks still left for TCM Gaming, and a lot to do for Carmen. He's going to make some shots, but he knows he's dead, and he knows he's done for. And finally, one of my predictions are correct. TCM Gaming, they pick up Ruinberg in some fashion, and that was a very, very tentative map. Like Himmelsdorf, TCM could have lost that one.
Oh, yeah.
The move, which was fantastic, was that they were going to push up atop the cross, across the top, and then shoot Butcher from behind. It was a little bit slow there. They did catch him. They took 993 out of 1,400 HP off him. Still Mojo tried to finish him off. I think he did like 300 and 293 damage out of 390, so he couldn't finish off Butcher. But what TCM did great is instead of just pushing straight across the top like they wanted to do at the beginning, they rotated back in towards that village and managed to actually push on to Meritorious. So fantastic play by TCM Gaming, making the right calls at the right time.
Yeah, I think we need to see that chase again, though, right at the end then. I've got to give credit to Potomaco. That guy was doing what he could. Look how many shells were coming into him. There's already 2 been made. There's the 3rd, 4th connects, and how much he has to stay alive from. It's literally a 3-man firing squad just on him, and he still somehow, I think, gets tracked at the end. No damage done. Eurofish now fluffs the shot.
I think Eurofish just wanted to track in for the lols.
Yeah, and does what does best. Yeah. Just comes in and does the job in the end. But a couple of missed shots there. Maybe not the most smooth bit of gameplay, but as you said, a win's a win, really, when it comes down to it. They played out the map far superiorly overall.
They were just a better team. Denali eSports trying to rotate and trying to be clever, but Zenith, if he had been 10 seconds earlier, I think it would have been good for Denal, but because he was stuck there on his own, and the blind shots actually killing him, he was spotted early on, but he reversed. There's no point reversing when you're getting blind shots coming towards you, because a shot is shooting at 2 times the speed of sound, maybe 720 miles an hour, 1 times the speed of sound. You're not going to be able to reverse at 720 miles an hour. The most you can in the MX 3090 is like 20 kilometers. So
a little ambitious from him.
A little bit ambitious from Zenith, but a couple of gold stars for trying at least. 5th map, final map. All TCM have to do is draw this, and goddamn, we've been here before.
Yes, it's a feeling we are now commonly used to here. Cliff as the final map. Now, this is a bit of a bitch of a map. I hate to say the word, but sometimes if a team wants to draw it out, they can do. And I can imagine there's going to be a very turtle downside waiting for Denial to make their move pretty much in this one. What can Denial eSports do to overcome this here? Because this is a map that you can be defensive on, that you can play for the draw. How do you change that?
Well, I don't know about
it's a big question. It's a big question.
I feel like Bruce Almighty right now because, you have to kind of be God. TCM really have done this perfectly with the map picks. Cliff, we've seen, even with the likes of the MX 3090s and T69s being the main tanks for these guys, we still seen draws. Now, if TCM decides to pick 5100s and IS3s and just turtle down, I can't see a way in for Denial. They still have to get the central area. All in all, it's going to be a hard game, but it does look like TCM Gaming are going to be picking something a little bit faster, so they're going for the win either way. Triple MX 3090 T69 times 2, I do believe, double tier 1. Depends what I believe still Mojo plays, but I do expect him to play a T69.
But I'm just more glad that they're not playing the IS3s anymore. That was a terrible, terrible time for TCM on that map. I absolutely hated it. They were the first ones to really try it out when this got added to the pool, obviously, here within Europe, and they were the first ones to have it fail parlously on them. It was not working for them at all, and now hopefully they've kind of adjusted a little and got themselves ready for this because, at the moment we're still waiting on Denial's lineup, and this is the one that I want to be looking at to see how they really try and counter this, because they're the one that has to bring the game here. They're the one that has to go for the win. Simple as that. Otherwise, it's a done deal. And I pose the question to you again in a slightly different way. Is there any tanks that could help them in this that they might not ordinarily go with?
I think the Object 146 is definitely an option. We've seen it from Virtus Pro and they still pick it up. Didn't work out so well for them. Delight got taken down early by Evil Panda Squad. But at the end of the day, it was still a good pickup for them. I think in the right position, it has enough damage, 320 with the M63, to actually deal with a campy team like if TCM goes for. But looking at this lineup, as I said before,
it doesn't
look like they want to camp. It looks like they want to play the standard lineup, which could be indicative of what Cliff is. You can't pick those heavy tanks and camp, unlike on Mines, on Ensk, on Ruinberg. You have to pick the fast lineups to get in the right positions, and then you can camp, which is like next level camp. But quadruple MX 1390, T69 double tier 1, final lineup from Denali eSports.
Well, it's looking good for this final game coming through. Currently, TCM having the advantage at 2-1 in the final map. As we said, it's going to have to be a victory for Denial if they want to actually scrape through with any sort of points in this one. And at the moment, TCM certainly looking like they're ready for this. Going with a lineup that's not necessarily as passive as expected. Maybe learning from a little bit of the Kazna style of still going with the same lineup, but using it in that defensive way, using it smartly to win the game. But we can only wait and see, because we are now ready for Cliff, the final map. So, welcome into the final map to decide who'll be walking away with a prestigious win. Will it be TCM in the north in red, currently leading 2-1, or will Denial do the job enough to bring it back to a draw in the south with a victory on the final map? What sort of beginning are we seeing here?
Denial all heading up towards the middle as we would expect. The only one going left is Snip and Karma with the 2 tier 1s. A little bit more aggressive on that front. That shows that Denial have to go for the win, and they want to go for the win on this matchup. Eurofish, Dezinikta, Yizny and DJ Red Deep going right, obviously going to staying hold down there. Yukai going for that back kind of hold down position. It's going to take DJ Red Deep a little bit of time to get in the right positions, but we might see the early engagement.
Wow.
Potomako, Butcher all going around. It's going to be a real brawl at the beginning.
This is unbelievable, and you can see why most teams don't do this. Materius and Butcher took at least a shell each to get to this position, but Durs is now surrounded. Durs is literally going to die so fast. He is down and out. Butcher claims that, but now Butcher must depend on Materius here. Materius taking a lot of the damage, trying to get it back, but it looks like Denial might have gone out on a bit of a limb they can't stand on, because Materius is low, Butcher is low, and Potomako. They're finding replies, however. Durs is in trouble, as was Wiser and E. Materius, that's a stunning little quick shot there. And now, let's see if Denial can bring this one home. Eurofish toying with the wrong guys here. Butcher and Materius doing a fantastic job, even from such a pinned-in position. And TCM look as though they weren't ready for that at all.
They certainly weren't, but look how low Meritorious, Butcher and Potomako. They kind of got a little bit lucky in that engagement, but perfect aggressive play from them. DJ Red Deep trying to find his way up. It's going to take him a little bit of time, but if he can do it. Nia Pizzorni's going to come off the hill. TCM Gaming definitely on the back foot at this point in time. 8 minutes and 15 seconds left. And Nia Pizzorni's going to have to take some damage.
Yeah, Nia Pizzorni is moving, and he's got Zenef covering him off, but this could spell trouble. DJ Red Deep is not taking the damage here. He's just going hell for leather. We are seeing a tier 1 in the cap circle. That is Carmen, but he's going to be surrounded pretty damn fast, and even DJ Red Deep holding back Nia Pizzorni and Zenef will not help out the matter for Denial. So a little bit of bite left in TCM, still trying to do the job they can, and Eurofish does take down Carmen. That's the tier 1 gone. You can see DJ Red Deep just playing it careful, making sure Zenef can't do the job he wants. He does land the shell there. Nice work. Potomato finds Eurofish. This is not looking good for TCM. This could be Denial's game.
It certainly could be. Now 3 tanks up for the good Meritorious, Butcher, Potomako. We'll have to be careful though, so the push is going to be spot on. Yukai really has to start getting to this game. DJ Red Deep might still have 1 shell left in that 4. Auto-loading T69, the T178. Such a fantastic gun. Zenef down to a 2-shot there at 375 HP. Nia Pizzorni about a 3 shots. And Yukai and DJ Red Deep still 100% HP. Can Nia Pizzorni find an angle onto this tank? Yes, he can.
Oh, he needs to do it fast because Yukai is coming around the backside. Nia Pizzorni is exchanging down there with DJ Red Deep, but Yukai finally gets into the mix. He's taken 2 shots against him. Does not land the 3rd, however. That's not what you wanted. You must take Nia Pizzorni down fast. Yukai knows it. Zenef now comes in. Fire comes out from DJ Red Deep, but the shells aren't landing fast enough. They must take one of these 2 down. They're fluffing this unbelievably so. Zenef battling with Yukai. Yukai not doing the job. Potomako finds DJ Red Deep, and now Yukai in a world of trouble. Not a great deal of HP on Denial eSports, but enough to do the job. And can you believe it? This is literally the worst nightmare of TCM. The unpredictable, the unexpected, the unbelievable has happened. Denial tie the game up with the victory at the end, denying TCM from another victory.
Unbelievable. I mean, how many times has this happened to TCM that they finally learn their lesson? And maybe I'm going to have to eat my own words and say they should have been more passive. At the end of the day, they lost it pretty much when Durs got taken down in the middle. That was a 5 versus 4 from there on out. And TCM did a great job of getting the HP back. But we had, what do we have there? Meritorious. We had pretty much the whole team of Denial eSports on sub 200 HP. So they're all a 1-shot.
Oh, yeah.
But because of Denial eSports' great positioning and the way they spread the damage around, it doesn't matter if they were a 1-shot. There's still a gun in the game. And I always say that. The gun in the game is the most important thing and the only thing that matters. So TCM Denial get a point each, which is definitely a worse thing for TCM because School Bus probably will pick up their next matchup.
Yeah, and speaking of the next matchups, we do have another play day on the way, but let's have a little look back at all the results of today and how they kind of went through, because there were some great games there. In the end, you know, I've got to say, my heart bleeds a little for TCM in that final matchup. You know, how many times have they got to the end of the finishing line and then just trip and stumble, and, you know, you see someone just trampling all over them to win that final prize. It's like one of those great videos you see occasionally, where it's just literally the guy who's in the front of the race starts cheering before it's over, and it will be Denial just drawing out TCM. But anyway, let's go back to the very start of play day, because we saw finally a very competent C player up against Freefall.
Very nice stuff to see that they're actually finally getting themselves together a little bit.
Definitely.
I didn't expect it to be quite a one-sided affair. I thought C-Play might struggle a little bit, although I did predict that they would win, just based on the fact that they needed to win, basically.
Yeah.
This is do or tie. This is last chance saloon for them. But they do pick it up 3-1. Then we moved on to the Czech team, Suba versus the Russian Juggernauts. Obviously a few Ukrainians in there. I can't leave them out. So it's obviously Virtus Pro. 3-0 result for V-Pro, not unexpected, I don't think.
No, but I don't think it reflects how hard eSuba actually tried in that game. Certainly turned up and did the best they could and got quite an impressive result considering they were against Virtus Pro. Certainly made them work for that victory. Maybe not as hard as you may see other teams in the near future, but they did at least show a good display there, eSuba, maybe building up to something towards the later half of the season, and well, it's pretty impressive so far. And so just kind of talking about, building up towards the end of the season, you're going to see this start really taking shape here. Virtus Pro getting a little bit ahead of themselves now, 6-0. This could be an untouched season almost for these guys. Waiting for Kazna, though. That's what I'm literally waiting on. Kazna Crew still in second. But the thing I've got to point out, TCM, it's not looking that pretty. 3-2-1. 1 loss, 2 draws, and 3 wins. I've got to say it, Scorebus look like they are pretty much on point to take their place considering the next Playday matchup. No offense to the Leprechauns, but it's not looking good for TCM. They're struggling here to close out games.
They've been the better team twice now. I think Denali Sports were a little bit more of a strong team than Schoolbus here, but TCM Gaming should have won that last matchup. They just made a couple of mistakes here and there, and you have to give credit to Denial. They were very aggressive in that last one, catching them out. But yeah, TCM 3-2-1, not amazing. It's okay now, they're sitting in third, but when, for instance, Schoolbus, for instance, Denial eSports, Drooling Leprechauns, Freefall, these teams still in contention, when they start getting the wins and not so many draws, it could be a real issue for them. Yeah, it's going to be an issue.
We see it time and time again through the WGL EU. It starts to get a little bit closer mid-season, and you're like, oh, this could get interesting towards the later half. And then we see about 1 million teams just tied on the same points because they either get off to a slow start and then build into this great finish, or they struggle a little, let it slip, and you see these other teams, the surprise teams, catching up with them. And I wouldn't be surprised with some of the teams and the talent we've seen from the new kind of comers to this league to have to catch up with them. So certainly something to keep your eyes on there. And now we've got to start looking towards, obviously, the next Playday, because we had a great Playday today, but it's all about what's coming up. So it's going to be starting off with on Thursday, the 26th of June. It'll be the Drooling Leprechauns up against Scorebus. Hence why TCM will be shaking in their boots. In theory, that should be an easy game for Scorebus, but they have shown weakness, and the Leprechauns, there's been glimmers of hope until they played that passively. But your thoughts on that matchup, Scorebus?
I think they're going to struggle. I honestly
Really?
do. I think Drooling Leprechauns did a really good job against their sister team, Freefall.
True.
It could really find some problems. Schoolbus don't seem like a team that can actually beat Drooling Leprechauns in straight sets, for instance 3-0. I think maybe 2-2 or 1-0. A very drawn-out affair or a very quick affair for one of these two.
Yeah, and the game coming up after that is the one that I am personally absolutely cannot wait for. Evil Panda Squad up against Kazna Crew. 2 classics again to the WGL EU. These two have known each other for a long time, but maybe finally a bit of a challenge for Kazna Crew in this one. Maybe.
I think it could be a challenge. Evil Panda Squad been extraordinarily strong. They only fell to Virtus Pro earlier, so I think there's going to be more of a close contention than any of the other maps. Kazna Crew have been on fire at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
But Evil Panda Squad has a lot of experience against them. New multi-show will really put them to the test.
Yeah, and following that will be Lucky Karaki up against Wusa. A bit of a battle of the lower part of the league, but then Lucky Karaki, they're now in a good position to rack up some wins and start really chipping away at that top 6. They could really secure themselves in there if they pick this one up. And
on the other side, Wusa have been really at the bottom of the whole time. They've not won a single matchup. They've drawn against Kazna Crew, surprisingly, the second team. They lost to Asuba, the previous last position team. They actually do need to start winning here, guys. For me, Wusa at the beginning of the season was one of those who could actually be in the top 6. Because I never thought Freefall would be or Drooling Leprechauns or Lucky Karaki. For me, it was always Wusa. Yeah, they're a team with phenomenal amounts of potential, history, everything you need to make a good team, but yet to really harness any of that potential, sadly. But
if that all sounds good to you, and I know it does to me, make sure you tune in on Thursday, the 26th of June, Thursday this week, at 7. Is it CEST now?
Yes.
It is CEST, so there you have it. Make sure you tune in then. We'll be here, and hopefully you'll be as well. And make sure you guys at home give us feedback of how you like the new studio and how you like today's show and how it's gone overall. Make sure you tweet through at the accounts below and to myself, at They Call Me Pansy, and at LaughterWOT on Twitter. And let us know your thoughts of how this has gone and what's your favourite matchup coming up in the next week. So guys, do stay not too far away from the PCs. Make sure you follow this Twitch page because as soon as we go live, you'll get a notification and hopefully you'll be joining us next time.